here's the nugget that we want you to take away. Many times we're lagging because we're expecting those to lead to pull us forward.
That's right.
Right?
Yes.
That's right.
And instead, you should be getting out front and setting the pace.
Yes.
You should be getting out front and setting the pace, not just for you, but when you set the pace like that, other people will follow. How many of us are lagging in the back, expecting, even in the black community, a lot of times we're like, well, where's our next leader? Who's going to pull us forward?
Yeah.
Right? And instead, we should be stepping up in our individual purposes, our individual walks, and leading from the front, because then others will follow. Set the pace.
Yeah.
Set the pace.
Change up the things you see. Open your mind to possibilities. Find your power, passion, and your purpose. You know it's time for you to walk in greatness. Let's murder mediocrity. Slay your goals, live out your dreams. Now, inspirational perspective. Open your mind to a better life. It's time to live a dream. Now, inspirational perspective. Let's slay your goals.
Learned a lot in Uganda. So I want to kick off just with some introductions, so the audience can get to know you all a little better. And so let's go ladies first. I mean, Dominique, some of them may remember you, remember your voice. Mind introducing yourself?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Dominique Bryant, and I am the founder of Dream Academy Foundation, which is a youth development organization for ages 10 to 18. We talk about leadership, life skills, also STEM for 10 to 18, and then we offer internships for 16 to 24-year-olds. And I'm also a business consultant where I connect people with resources, processes, and opportunities.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to come back to you in a second. Dominique, here's my question. I'm going to cue up the question now. All right? I'm going to cue up the question now. Because I want you to share with the listeners what inspired you to book this particular travel experience. This is not just your normal excursion. It's built to be quite the extraordinary excursion, right? So I want you to be thinking about what inspired you, so you can share that with the audience. But in the meantime, Mr. Nairi Billups, how are you, sir?
Man, I'm doing well. Bless.
Mind introducing yourself to our audience so they can get, they're about to get a whole lot of flavor in the next 2 hours, but they're going to learn a lot like I did.
They are.
But, please introduce yourself.
All right, so we'll try to keep this short since we got 2 hours. So my name is Nairi Billups. I am, in short, human medicine. You spend some time with me and you're going to feel better. And so I'm the CEO and founder of my brand, The Growfessor, and it's about transforming from the inside out. And I tackle that space from corporate all the way through to recidivism. I have a deconditioning model, a 4 seeds model, and now I'm starting to build out a career empowerment series to help people tell their stories. And so all of this is all rooted in transforming people from the inside out. And so, again, you'll see me around as the Growfessor, but I was with these two just as your boy Nairi, so you're going to get a little bit of both today.
Which we enjoy. All right, so I'm going to start with you, Dominique. Like, what inspired you to go on the leadership tour of Uganda? And just set it up for anybody who's just maybe they're not familiar with the tour. The tagline for this tour is to face your leadership gorillas. And just in case someone listening is not aware, she actually spent time with real live gorillas in the rainforest of Bwindi Impenetrable Forest in Uganda. That's just among other things, right? Among
Yeah.
other things,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So what inspires a young lady like you to say, I'm going to push myself, trek gorillas, go to Uganda, in this case, surrounded by men. You were the only lady.
Yes.
Surrounded by men, to explore what's next for me in my leadership journey. What inspired you to do that?
Well, I'm committed to growth, and I believe that if you want something different, you need to do something different. And I'm not going to say that being trekking gorillas was on my list, okay? But it definitely wasn't. But I trusted Linnell and what I declared that I wanted to have in my life and as a leader. So I know I needed to grow. I know that, and I desired to grow. And sometimes, you have to do unconventional things to get unconventional results.
No doubt.
And so forth. So.
No doubt. I like that. Unconventional things to get unconventional results. Yeah, that makes, love that. Nairi, what about you? What made you say, hey, this is for me?
The timing for me was perfect because I was at a point where I was getting ready to leave corporate.
Mm-hmm.
And so at the time, Dominique shared the trip with me. I was like, ooh, let me block my calendar. But by that point, the decision to walk away and do my own thing was clear.
Mm-hmm.
And so what better way to step into this next chapter as a leader where I've been in the corporate and professional spaces for 30 years, now to be doing this on my own terms. Like, this couldn't have been a better start to say, hey, you know what, I'm all in on me and this trip is here. It was a complete challenge to me as a leader because it completely took me out of the confines, the cushy confines of corporate America.
Got you. I like that. The cushy confines. I mean, and it's like I love the parallel there.
That's absolutely right.
Because like if I'm about to go into this jungle and hunt and kill my own meal, let's go to the jungle and hunt.
Yeah.
Right. Or trek more so.
That's
But,
right.
Yeah.
That's right. Because that's all we was doing was trekking.
right. No hunt.
We
No
was
hunt.
not part of that 100.
Yeah. I don't think anybody really, no one wants to be a part of that.
That's right.
100.
That's
yeah.
right.
Conversation online was 100 men versus
That's right. That's
a gorilla.
Right. Literally while we right there.
Literally. I mean, we're
Yeah.
with gorillas and people are trying to figure out whether or not 100 men could defeat one gorilla.
Yeah.
Let's address that.
Yeah.
Let's address that.
Easy.
Let's start
Easy.
there. I mean, you all spent time with gorillas. We actually kicked the trip off. After a day of being in Uganda, went to Kampala, got back on a plane.
Yeah.
Flew to Kasoro and trekked gorillas the next day. I'm going to talk about that experience, right? Just flying to Kasoro, all of that.
Yeah.
But, having experienced gorillas, what would you say? 100 man versus one gorilla, what do you think that would go like?
Yo, there's a point. I'm going to let you do your story. But there's a point where we're just standing there and the primary silverback.
Yeah.
Right? The head honcho. He raises his arm up. He grabs a tree branch. And the whole thing broke. He just literally just casually stroll his arm back.
And a whole branch. I think people need to understand a mature tree and a mature branch.
And it cracked crisp. It was as if you reached up and grabbed an apple. And when I say reached up and grabbed this apple and just pulled your arm down. Because, it's not going to take you a lot of pressure.
No.
And it was a snap. And I looked at Linnell. I was like, yo, that thing just snapped cleanly.
Clean.
Just imagine him, if he wanted to, he could pull my body parts apart.
Easy.
With ease.
Ease.
There's not a single animal that we can do that. Even when you snap a chicken's neck, you still don't separate it from his body cleanly that. I don't think we have a sense of the magnitude. But to hear that tree branch crack like that was yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So your answer is they don't have a chance.
Oh, not even. Not even.
So Dominique, you agree?
Absolutely. Yes. I agree.
You agree? You're
I don't need to add anything else. We spent a lot of time with them. Yes.
Well, look, since Dominique not going to do it, I'm going to tell you how they're not even going to get there. Even when this same silverback just literally called the family to move to a different location.
Yep.
Earth shook. Like you
the
felt
ground underneath us.
The ground underneath us shook.
Yeah.
Nobody in his family moved. Dominique almost took out Chicago Richardson out the block. Out the block. Now we had a whole class on don't move.
Don't move.
But then, like he was like, he had to put his full extension out there to stop her because she was about to be, and I couldn't move because the way the ground shook. I was like, did y'all feel? And bro beat on his chest, y'all.
Yeah. And so describe, I mean, because you didn't see it, Dominique.
Yes.
But to describe to the listeners what happened is at one point, Mark, who is the alpha silverback of the family.
48 years old.
48 years old. We all share, at least Nairi and I share birth years with him.
Yeah.
And so he is ready for the family, for the troop to move.
Yeah.
And part of how they do that is he just out of nowhere jumps up and, kind of jumps up and down on the ground and begins to pound his chest and grunt. And that means, hey, let's move. Now, we're going to talk about why they didn't move in a moment, because I think that was also revealing in a leadership lesson all in one, right?
That's absolutely right.
But Dominique at the time was turning to take a picture. Her back was turned when Mark decided to do this. And so she just is kind of like, she couldn't see him. All she heard was, felt the ground shake and him pounding his chest.
Yeah.
And so she was ready to
take off.
Let me get out of here. Yes.
What is going on?
And one of the things that you learn when you go through the orientation is that with gorillas you don't run, right? And we're going to get to this in a moment because I'm going to answer this whole 100 men versus a gorilla in a moment with like my perspective on it. But I was like, Dominique, you're good. Like, you're good. And, then we turned around and later he tore that branch down. I think we were all convinced that 100 men. Now, let me say this in terms of 100 men. One of the things about men is sometimes we can do things that are completely ill-advised, and we break our own rules. I mean, we break our own rules. We don't work in a particular order. And the fact that there's a conversation about 100 men versus a gorilla tells you that we lack wisdom in the first place, right? And what I find fascinating about the gorilla is that it wouldn't, even if 100 men showed up, it wouldn't stay in the fight. Like, a gorilla's too smart for that. It would defend itself. The first 20 to 30 are going to be sacrificed as a result of surprising it.
That's right.
Let's be clear.
That's right.
But then that gorilla's going to get little, whether it's in a city, whether it's in the jungle. It's going to get out of there because it's like, this is not a good situation for me.
That's right.
Even if I can defend myself, this is not a good situation for me. And what it reminds me of is what you learn in martial arts, which is why you always remove yourself from a hostile situation. You can defend yourself out, but you remove yourself. And so even the highest of, like, the wisest of fighters have all agreed across all martial arts.
That's right.
You remove yourself from a hostile situation, and that's exactly a gorilla with no martial arts training would do. Yeah, so 20 to 30 would feel the pain, and then the fight would be over because the gorilla would remove itself.
Yeah.
It's that simple. And that's one of the things I love about gorillas. They're predictable.
Yeah.
They're predictable. And most of our fear around being around them, I love to check in with you. Since we're talking about the gorilla experience, what that experience was like for you. But since they're predictable, being around them just kind of gives you a completely different type of spiritual experience. I'm curious for you guys. Like, what was that experience like?
I think for me, I would sort of think about, but I do think about it in two ways. It's interesting that the predictability that you speak of, I only see that predictability as that gorilla being completely a gorilla, which is completely unknown to me.
Right. Behaving itself
it's
as
behaving
gorilla.
itself as a gorilla. I don't see it all the time. Even what we've seen on TV, I have still no clue what happens when there's no camera watching. So I can't even say that I can even understand the full capability and capacity. So it's interesting that I love that you talked about how the gorilla would remove itself. You see the same thing with a lion with a pack of hyenas.
True.
He'll fight a couple, and then he'll be like, okay, let me get on back.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
But trust and believe he's going to come back to try to pick somebody off little by little, right? And so that piece is there. So there's a consistency by which animals sort of defend themselves, right? That I think that's that predictability that you talked about. But we also need to understand we have no idea what it looks like for that gorilla to actually be aggressive towards us as a response to defending itself. Because now you're in my territory.
Exactly.
You've come to threaten me. Well, now I know this place better than you know. So there's a part of, playing in somebody's turf that I think even for what I knew as a human going into it, I had to listen to everything that the ranger said. And even though I trusted the rangers, my own spidey senses was like, you kind of need to pay attention too, right? And so I think there's that space where when you're there, I think that's what you have to sort of realize, that even as a leader, you aren't in the trenches. So there's something about the experience that your team is going through, or if you're reporting up in that other conversation up the vertical that's happening that you're not aware of.
100%.
So you
100%.
sort of standing into that space of, well, a gorilla, I'm going to do what I do as a gorilla. So I'm going to bring you.
Right.
And so that's the sort of the confidence you have to have. And I think being there, that was one of those pieces that I sort of took away from there. And I think the second piece is that I think this sense of community is ubiquitous across animals. Even when you see animals who want to be solitary, there's a part of being solitary that still comes back to, because at a point when we saw them, everybody was kind of doing their own thing. But eventually we saw them get so close that we saw 8 out of 9 without even having to move.
Exactly.
So you can see that sense of community amongst them that was happening independent of us and our sort of thing. And so community is naturally going to draw itself in towards it. But even community needs its own separate space to breathe,
Which
right?
we saw.
Which
Yeah.
we saw.
And then everybody had their own roles
That's
as
what
well.
Yeah.
So you saw after Mark, the alpha male, did, after they ate and so forth, then his daughter came and went on his back, or got on his back, and then we saw the little kid playing, not the little kid, the younger one, the 4-year-old playing and so forth. Then we saw the teenager chilling after he ate and had no worries.
Right.
So, that was big, their roles. So,
What was that experience like for you? Like being, that close within the vicinity with really, we were in the living room of a gorilla family, if you want to think about it.
Close to the, we was at the dinner table.
Definitely the dinner table.
That was that close.
They were breaking bread. And,
like we could touch.
We
like
could literally
arm's
reach
length.
out and touch somebody if we want to.
Yeah. How was that for you?
First it was an honor, and I felt so blessed to be in the presence of the gorillas. I was first in my family, or just a lot of people, to do something like this and being a trailblazer. So I was at and really trying, and I'm still processing it. I'm like, did this really happen? And I'm so happy I took pictures and we got videos and so forth, because I can look back on it and say, okay, this is actually real. But then being able, like we was talking about, with the just interacting with them and spending a lot of time, I felt blessed.
Yeah. And we spent a lot of time.
We did.
And it was rare. Everybody was there throughout the process. 8 out of 9. And then they have 3 silverbacks in that troop. That's unheard of.
Yeah.
So, just favored.
Nice. Nairi, one of the things you brought out was, like, you started talking about the lessons we gleaned. And one of the things about this trip that I believe was unique, and one of the reasons we subtitled the show Leadership Lessons from the Pearl of Africa, was because we walked away from that trip with about 30 leadership lessons.
Yes, definitely about 30.
And a good portion of those lessons came early on in the gorilla trek.
Yeah.
And so going up, I don't know if you want to share the lesson that we received, Dominique, just on the trek, because it took us about 2 hours, maybe. to get to the gorillas.
Yeah.
Like 2 hours of hiking and trekking up the mountain.
Yep.
So, I mean, acknowledgement to you all because you guys are bona fide mountain climbers and hikers.
We was in there.
We
was in there. We was in there. We was committed.
So, how was, that first lesson that we got? You want to explain that lesson?
Well, you can explain that then, or Nairi, and then can I jump in with that
absolutely.
part? Okay.
Absolutely. Nairi, you want to take a crack at it?
I'll do it.
Okay.
So we're starting out on the trek, and if you've ever hiked, there's a kind of ordering that kind of naturally happens.
Yeah.
Typically, somebody who's most experienced or the person who organized it is typically out front.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, we had rangers, we had a couple. Military
Porters.
first.
Porters.
Yeah.
No, we had the porters,
Oh, yes.
and then we had
And
the
then
other
military.
And we had the military first, right?
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
the trackers were well up ahead, actually
Right.
trying to track.
Right.
So they're talking to the trackers and say, "Hey, this is where we got to go." So as we're starting out, everybody's trying to find their footing. Before the first break, Dominique was somehow in the middle, and we kind of had a nice little pace.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow at the next break, Dominique ends up in the back. And so I was previously in the back. So now I'm steadily looking back at Dominique.
Right.
Unbeknownst to me, somebody else is having a similar experience. So I'll pause here and let you do yours.
Yeah, so for me, as the person who's curating the trip, obviously, I'm keeping an eye on all my travelers. And, we're moving up the mountain. And if I'm not mistaken, Dominique, you were in the middle. Nairi was taking up the back.
Yeah.
And then as we start to the climb start to get steeper, I remember turning around and you weren't there.
Yeah.
And so we stopped.
We stopped.
Okay, we got to wait on Dominique. And when I did this, I wasn't thinking, I hadn't really understood the leadership lesson quite yet.
And because we hadn't had a conversation yet, but we're having the same moment at the same time. Because as Dominique is coming back up, I step to the side no, Dominique, you have to go in front of me. And then he does the same thing. And I was like, oh, you must have saw what I saw. We had a better pace when Dominique was in front of us than behind us.
Exactly.
And that became our first leadership lesson. He was like, yeah. He was like, I was wondering why we was. And I was like, because we kept looking back further. Now, here's the thing about Dominique. And kind of what we kind of saw as our leadership lesson that sort of naturally flowed to her.
Mm-hmm.
When Dominique is in the front, it's no question to her what she needs to do as a leader.
Exactly.
She doesn't question herself. She just moves and goes, oh, you know what? If they're behind me following, then I'm going to give them something to follow.
100%.
But if you put Dominique in the back, Dominique is going to slink out of the picture.
Take my time.
She's going to be like, they got it. And then we now the line is getting longer. And so, if you hike, you don't want your hiking team to be all spread out,
no.
right? You want
it's
everybody,
not safe.
That's right. You want people to be close together. So that's why we're looking out for her from a hiking standpoint. But the leadership lesson was we learned something about Dominique's leadership style that was so informative to us for the rest of the trip. Here's why it was, because we didn't just observe it. Yeah. We actually talked about it with Dominique. We talked about it with each other. And then we just started naturally applying it to be like, well, Dominique, you just go ahead and take the lead because we know how this is going to go if you take the lead versus not. And so that was something that just kind of happened, and it just unlocked the whole trip because it allowed us to have that level of in-depth conversation on every leadership sort of nugget that we sort of learned in that space. But it was a beautiful thing to sort of see. But I learned something about you as well, too, in terms of how we both were observing.
Yeah.
You were doing the same thing. I wasn't you, but I was like, well, I just want to make sure everybody who's with me is good. 100%. But you going, well, they on my trip. And I'm like, well, we came together, we leaving together. This is kind of how this roll, right? So I need to make sure they're good, right? And so that's kind of how I was. And so when she was behind me, it was like, well, not only is she the only sister, so we definitely can't let nothing happen to her. Can't nothing happen on our watch, right? So that part, right? And then she already had this injury that she was really baby caking us on, right? We don't even get into that part. But again, we was just making sure she was good. But the fact that we noticed that about her leadership style, and not about her gender, and not about this other foolishness.
Right.
We went
it was about how she led.
It was about how she led.
How she leads. Yeah.
Which spoke to volume to in that conversation you and I had about her. Even though we recognized that she was the only woman, that kind of felt for us in, we got to protect her as black men. But the rest of it was, what's the leadership to her? So we don't talk to her like she, like this is leaders talking.
No doubt.
And we got into stuff like leaders did.
Yeah. So thanks for that, Nairi, for narrating how that went down. And as a leader myself, like I think one of the things we took from it is like, okay, I'm leading this tour. One of the reasons I was out front is so I could point out, hey, watch for that. These branches over here, this bark has spikes. You know, things like that for you guys. But then saying, no, you know, it's better for me to make sure Dominique is up front. And then we have other people that will do that for us. And so I can step to the back and allow her to lead. And then you set a beautiful pace. And I think that was one of the things that we really learned as well, is that, and for anybody listening, I think here's the nugget that we want you to take away. Many times we're lagging because we're expecting those to lead to pull us forward.
That's right.
Right?
Yes.
That's right.
And instead, you should be getting out front and setting the pace.
Yes.
You should be getting out front and setting the pace, not just for you, but when you set the pace like that, other people will follow. And that was the biggest thing for me. How many of us are lagging in the back, expecting, even in the black community, a lot of times we're like, well, where's our next leader?
Yeah.
Who's going to pull us forward? Right? And instead, we should be stepping up in our individual purposes, our individual walks, and leading from the front, because then others will follow. Set the pace. Set the pace.
And so this, I guess, the sort of jumping in with my own branding here in terms of the deconditioning model, it's about you activating your own inner kineticism, right? You, in order to do what he just said, you have to understand that it's your energy. If you don't decide to use your energy, guys, it's just sitting there.
Right.
So even if you don't have to be up front, you still need to use your energy to get to where you're trying to go, right? And that's what he's saying through this, because I don't want everybody to walk away going, well, I got to be out front because ain't nobody else out front. No. That's not what leadership means. Right. Leadership is not about being out front. It's about understanding the energy you have to move things in a positive 100%. Way. And I love the piece that you talked about. As a leader, I was able to step into a different lens when I started leveraging the folks that was around me who had these other roles that I was trying to do.
There you go.
All at the same time.
100%.
So I love how you brought that piece out.
And then one thing I do want to add as well, when I changed positions, right? So I was at my own pace and so forth, but getting up in the second and third, I was in the second spot. I'm like, wait a minute. All these people behind me, I'm not going to slow everybody down. So I'm like, I'm going to continue moving forward and pushing forward. So you all gave me energy and just a push. So I'm like, because y'all not going to be looking at me. But they kept on telling me, take your time, Dominique. We're going to get there. You set the pace. So they was making sure and have that assurance. But it gave me another oomph.
Got you.
Because I had a responsibility.
Got you.
You know, if I triangle this and sort of add another lens to this that ties into, when folks are looking for that other leader, I think maybe they're looking for that energy that activates theirs. Who can help me sort of, right? Yeah. Because again, and it's about leaders recognizing those folks in the back, that your job is that now help activate the energy inside of them.
100%. And often as leaders, we'll say, you need to catch up versus saying, hey, come here, get in front of me, and set the pace for us all.
All of that.
Yeah.
You got to do that as a sort of that space. So there's an empowerment and energy, not only in you empowering yourself, but as you said, somebody else's energy inspires you. So I think our confidence in you that you could set the pace, that we could follow. You was like, I got this. Yeah. Oh, my God. This was, look, we having the same type of moments we was having on. Because this is how it was happening. And we was like, oh, my God. And it was just, look, man, this is.
And for the audience, just imagine, you're hiking, you're trekking, you're climbing a mountain, and this is the conversation that we're in.
Literally.
As we're
Literally.
climbing, like, wow, you see what's happening here? And that was really the whole trip.
Yeah, it was.
The entire trip.
Everywhere.
We took lessons from
Yes.
every aspect of the journey. And this brings me to this next
Even getting
question.
lost.
Even getting lost, yeah. Yeah, no doubt, right? So let me ask you guys this. What was your initial expectation coming into this trip? Like, what was the initial expectation versus the actual experience for you guys? Really curious about that.
Well, I think for me, I'm a little bit different because, again, I've been over 50 countries, so me traveling, this is something I like to do. And I actually came into this trip open to everything. And so, but again, I was also coming out of this corporate space. I was coming into this new space, as I mentioned earlier. But just even in terms of who I am as sort of as a person, and you guys saw this on the trip, I don't even like to take pictures on trips. Because I'm like, guys, I'm here.
Yeah,
I'm getting all the experience that I need to remember this by. Because the one thing about, again, if you think about losing your mind, that picture, you're not going to connect to the picture anyways.
Right.
It's just something you're seeing.
Right.
So for me, it's about sort of being present. And I came on the trip expecting for myself to be fully present and to be open for the full experience. I think the part that I didn't get, that I couldn't plan for, is while it was a sort of chance of me being on this trip, the choices that we made in terms of being vulnerable with each other was something that was immediate, it was seamless, and it didn't feel like I was with strangers after by the time we landed.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like I was with strangers, right?
Yeah.
And so I think for me, I came into it open, and it really exposed me even more coming out of it. So what I didn't know what I was going to get was what I got, but I was certainly open to the experience. So I think for me, that expectation I have, it wasn't that was it going to be this, or this. It was, I'm about to get everything this thing is about to give me, and let me be all into it.
Love it. Dominique, what about you?
Mine was a bit different. So it was a combination. So one, yes, I wanted to ensure that I was going with the flow. So I expected to get rest. I expected to get poured into. I expected to have more connected with myself and just learn and grow. What I got is so much more. I got things deposited into me that was pushing me to the next level. I got great friendships and that brotherhood and sisterhood and so forth. But it was such an amazing experience.
Nice.
It's kind of hard to put in words.
It is.
Like I've traveled. Like again, I got one continent left to hit, right? Antarctica, right? And so,
which we should do together. I'm trying to get that.
Let's do it on my 50th. I'm planning for my 50th.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll just put you in on
next year.
No, 27.
27.
27.
Okay, 27.
27. Yeah,
okay,
27.
Got you.
Yeah. So I think for me, you go on trips, and anything could happen, right? On my honeymoon to Greece, our luggage got lost. We did not deal with a single roadblock on this trip. Like I don't believe that there's perfection, right? In the sense that people talk about it on Earth. But I feel like I was so open to the experience that if anything went wrong, I had no clue.
Right.
Because I was just flowing with the whole sort of thing. And I felt like I was like, oh, if I go on a trip again, I'm flowing like this.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Like it was a no-brainer for me that this is how you travel, knowing that whatever can happen is going to happen. You just got to be okay. Like I literally was like, psh.
And then I wasn't looking at the time.
That part.
We had you have an agenda and so forth, but it was like, you know what, we could just be.
Yeah.
We asked each other, hey, do you want to stay here longer? Even with the gorillas, wait, let's stay.
Yeah.
And guess what? We stayed another hour and we saw an amazing thing.
Yeah.
But if we was rushing to the next thing, the next agenda item, and so forth, we would have missed so many great opportunities. of connection.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
I don't
And
even
lessons.
I don't even know how to characterize it in terms of just what the trip turned out to be. Like, even when other folks became a part of the journey, when Colin came in,
Right.
when Jackie came in, it was seamless.
Yeah.
Like, we're literally sitting at this table with 15 other folks,
Mm-hmm.
and you would have thought we was all
Together the entire week.
the whole week. I mean, like, they cracking jokes on me in Uganda and bringing me up on the joke, right? And so it was like, you know what, this hit different in that sense. Again, I don't want to sort of ever put it out there that this could never be replicated. But I think in terms of
Everyone is different.
If I would,
every trek is every tour is different.
I guess what I would say though to folks is that if you ever go on something that is designed to take you out of your comfort zone, leave the fact that you have a comfort zone out of it.
I like that.
Because that allows you to accept everything as is without this judging scale of is this good or bad or the other. And that's why I think I didn't notice. Everything was amazing because I was like, this is what this is. If you're going to be here, this is how you're going to stay in. This are the conditions that you would stay in without challenging it with my own comfort zone of, I wish I had this, I wish I had that. When you leave that away, it allowed this trip to just something magical happen on this trip that was different.
And I want to set the context for anybody listening, because the leadership tour of Uganda has been designed to create just that experience for leaders. Because how I think about it is, as executive leaders, like, everything is scheduled. You are on the grind, right? Like, you have to be hyper. You have to be hyper aware. Yeah. We're leading through high stress environments, making quick decisions that sometimes we don't know if it's the right decision, wrong decision. So how do you create something for leaders that puts them in similar situations but completely shifting the context? And that's what the leadership tour of Uganda is about. And one of the things that myself and the team in Uganda, we work to create is a luxury experience on purpose, right? Like high supportive experience. When you get there, let me take your bag. All the things that leaders typically, like the things you sometimes have to worry about, these responsibilities even for yourself, let's remove that. Let's put you in really comfortable situations when you're sleeping, when you're in your room, right? Luxury situations, because when we're outside, you have to be hyper aware. Yeah. You have to be hyper aware. One of the things we talked about as a leadership lesson was situational awareness. Yes. You have to be hyper aware, but that awareness also supports you in this learning process.
That's right.
And so it's curated on purpose to create that. I love that. And thank you for saying you don't necessarily have the words. Yeah. Because I've tried to explain this to leaders.
Yeah, it's hard.
You just have to go.
You just need to go.
You just have to go.
You just need to go.
I got to ask this, Nair. You've traveled to different countries in Africa. Dominique, I know you've done Ghana. And I'm curious, about what you see as the difference between Ghana and Uganda, having been to Ghana a few times. And I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, okay, what is the difference? I think you probably can really give them a good perspective on that. Sometimes it's good to hear outside of me. And then after they answer these questions, I do want to talk about the standout moments. But just coming back to, this idea of, all right, Uganda. Nairi, what are your thoughts on the question I just asked?
I think one of the things that first blew my mind about Uganda was how green it was. When I think about everything that I've ever heard about Uganda, war-torn country, poverty, all of the negatives, I don't think that there's a place in North America that is as green as Uganda. And when I'm talking green, I'm talking about concrete jungle green. It is green everywhere. Looking out from any hill, all you see is rolling greens. So you get the sense of, when you see all of this greenery, you go, there's no way in hell this place should have any association with poverty whatsoever. Because the ability to grow your own food, it's literally everywhere you go. There's like no dry spots around where You didn't see lush greenery. So it tells you from an agricultural standpoint, the ability to grow and produce and be a mass exporter of anything you wanted to grow. And climate-wise, because the equator crosses in the country, you're getting literally prime growing. So, like, that was something that was immensely... You don't even see pictures like this when you look up Uganda.
Absolutely.
Which is what you should see, which is nothing but rolling greens everywhere.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I think that was something that really stood out for me. And having been to other countries in Africa, what do you think about this idea of Uganda being advertised or kind of pushed as the pearl of Africa, having now experienced Uganda?
You know, so I have a connection to Tanzania.
Okay.
Right, given my name. Of
course, given your name. Yeah.
Right. And how that resonated with me being there. Right. Mm-hmm. First time ever I'd experienced, I didn't have to explain to anybody the name or how to say it. Like, that was just magical for me and my own experience, right? But Uganda had this sense of, for everything that you hear about, to me, Hawaii, Uganda usurps that. To me.
100%. I agree.
From a greenery, because even when you think about the areas connected to the water, they're not over-inhabited. Yeah. I was amazed that there was not a bunch of beachfront properties. So the fact that it's so natural and remains so natural was something that was just, like, in my core, I was going, yeah, this ain't...
Yeah.
We've been doing a lot of stuff wrong. There's a lot right about that, because when you think about how green it was, every flight we were on, the visibility. Yeah. When you hiked up, the visibility. Mm-hmm. I can't see Chicago sometimes.
Yeah, I know.
Easy.
Right.
That's what I mean by the level of greenery there, that the air just seems so clean.
Yes.
So, like, I mean, you could walk outside and next thing you know, you're surrounded by trees, and literally to be able to take in that fresher breath air was, look, one of the best things we had is I had an outdoor spot on every lodging location.
Yep.
Literally was out there every night trying to soak up as much of the fresh air. The air there was just ridiculously different for me in terms of that, and I think it had so much to do with the rich green. And I'm talking about green. I'm not talking about, like, it is...
And I'm sure, Ade, for those of you, I mean, are you throwing up some photos of some of the greenery for people to see?
Yeah.
You know, so those of you on Facebook and YouTube, you can see what Nayeri's talking about. I would highly encourage anybody who, if you're curious about it, follow me on Instagram at Linnell Harris. I'll post some shots today. Just to kind of put you guys in, you know, in the thought of what he's talking about in terms of the greenery. On my Instagram story, Facebook story, etc. So you guys take a look. Dominique, for you, I mean, Ghana versus Uganda. Like, what was the contrast for you, having been to West Africa, been to Ghana multiple times, and then now, and maybe even the contrast because you've been with me in Ghana. Mm-hmm. You saw my leadership style for the transformational tour of Ghana, and then versus my leadership style for the leadership tour of Uganda. I'm very curious, like, what were the contrasts for you?
So Ghana is considered the gateway to Africa, and I totally believe that, and I stand on that. So the brotherhood, the sisterhood, the friendliness, and just really going back home, and the healing that comes with going to Ghana is... Bam, exactly point on. And even with the trip, it's a transformational tour of Ghana, reclaiming your identity. Right. So that's a whole different mission and purpose and so forth. So you lead more from a place of healing, a place of connection, and a place of love.
Got you.
Uganda was more of a place of rest, being out in the nature. So nature has its own like healing properties and centering you and so forth. Also, the people there, still brotherhood, sisterhood, but it was a sense of making sure that you have that VIP experience, that luxury, like that servant. Like not that serve. I'm here to serve. I'm here to serve you. I'm here to love on you. I'm here to have you be able to rest and just be and flow. So how you set that one up and how you showed up is, hey, situational leadership. What do my leaders on this trip need from me? So it was more like intentional. The other one was intentional too, Ghana, but Uganda was more of a place of rest, reset, and being able to flow and be.
Nice, nice. And that's good for me to know and hear. And so what would you say?
I would say it's a few, but
standout moments.
Just looking at the ecosystem and understanding all the intricate parts, like the connection. For example, we were on a safari and we saw an elephant. And then on top of the elephant was a bird. And the bird was picking off the bugs off the elephant. Like, it's like, okay, and then we saw a kill, or the end part of the kill, with the lions. And then we saw the vultures eating it. And just seeing how everything connects, and that it is, what's the other word I'm looking for? With the connection, and everybody had a role. And then they didn't have gluttony, right? They didn't just eat. When they was done eating, what did they do? They went and got water, or they took a rest. And they had no worries. So that was something just throughout the whole trip that came up. And then thinking about my own ecosystem. What do I do? Ensuring that I'm operating in my zone of genius and so forth. Because they wasn't trying to be out of line.
You know what I love about what you just said? And I think this is the importance of purpose. And you brought this up with the gorillas. Like, the gorillas don't know how to be anything else but a gorilla. They are serving their purpose. And when you are serving your purpose, then you begin to flow within the ecosystem that the Creator has set up, and everything gets handled. Everything gets handled. And I think we're so busy trying to figure out how to be in the ecosystem of the world, in the ecosystem that men have set up, right, which is completely flawed. And then when you're out in nature and you see how the Creator has set all of this up, where the elephant who can't scratch his own back has a bird that says, I got that for you. And the bird who is like, if I got on the ground and ate these insects, it probably would increase my mortality rate. I get to be on the back of the elephant and ride high while I eat my meals and serve him. Like, all of them are serving their purpose, they're well taken care of as well. I love that. I love that. That was phenomenal. Nairi, what about you?
Look, just to add on to that little piece, though, on the trip, I think it was you, Dominique. Why that bird is pooping on the elephant back? The elephant could care less about that poop on his back, because you were resolving something for me. We have this thing amongst humans. Oh, are you doing this? Oh, but you can't do that.
Right.
But in order for me to do this, I have to, there's a part of...
If you expect me to take care of your back, there might be a consequence.
That's absolutely right. If you expect me to afford all the things you've got to kind of understand, I might not be home as much as you'd like. Right? I might have to travel, right? Or I might have to be in my office on conference calls. Or, I may not be as available. So sometimes we don't. So there's a symbiosis that happens in nature where they're not antagonistic to the relationship.
Law of polarity, both sides. They're accepting both sides.
That's right. Yeah. Now, I want to sort of bring that, because that brings us to one of the powerful conversations you and I have, and I think it was either night 1 or maybe night 2. No, it was first night in Kasoro.
First night in Kasoro. Yeah.
And we were having this conversation about principles.
Yes.
Right? And so in that conversation, what ended up happening was, for me, a connection to, in the Rastafarian community, what they would call a reasoning session.
Mm-hmm.
But and also in certain other traditions like Jainism, they call it the non-one-sidedness or the multi-view perspective. In both of these conversations, it is about allowing both people to articulate their positions and let it reverberate in a way that you start to now step out of, okay, I've said what I have to say. Now let me see what this other person's saying.
Right.
We were able to not only see what each other were saying, but you can also see the initial resistance of, wait a minute, ain't nobody challenged me on my position like this before. I gotta go in my bag.
Yeah.
So we were going in our bag. The brother dropped Pareto's principle on me, and I'm like, wait a minute. So now I got to get it. So now we're into the laws of karma. Then he's like in the hermetic. And so I was like, wait a minute. And so the part of a reasoning session, and the part of having multiple views be able to exist at the same time. There's a story about 3 blind men and an elephant. So they let these 3 blind men touch the elephant, and everybody described what they touched. While everybody was factual in what they described as their experience of what they touched, you know what they didn't describe? The whole elephant.
Exactly.
The thing about reasoning and the thing about bringing in multiple perspectives is about seeing the biggest picture you can see to really understand where you need to sort of lean in and lean out. And so when I think about the conversation you and I had, for me it was, wait a minute, he's not being rigid, he's being clear on, because I believe in this principle, I make decisions with these principles guiding me. Mm-hmm. And I'm going, well, how can these principles guide you in this 11 million different... But then he was like, we had the conversation about your son, and he was like, if I could pick my kids' spouses, I would. And I'm going, this brother is really rigid. And so the conversation's still happening. And then he goes, well, here's why. And he was like, well, I know how I raised my kids. So if you can tell me how you raise your kids, I can get a sense of if the principles and laws you taught were similar to what I'm teaching, giving my kids a higher chance of success. I was like, boom, the reasoning of how he was using that became clear. And so in the Rastafarian community, that's why they go by overstand and not understand. Because in understanding, people just want you to get what I'm trying to tell you. In overstanding, you have to now put your position to the side and be open up. I literally grew from that brother in that moment, and that will always stick to me.
Likewise.
And because that was one where I was like, oh, I'm talking to somebody. We can unpack some stuff. Okay, now we can get into this. And there was no sense at all that this brother was offended, that I came from a different perspective than he came, and vice versa. I was like, he didn't even find that offensive, so I can dig in too. So with the Pareto's principle, I was like, okay, well, what about this text? And he was like, well, what about this text? And I was like, hey, you dropped 4 books. I need these 4 books that you dropped that I haven't read, right? And so that for me, forever, because having understood what the Rastafarians were saying and then Jainism was saying, that was an experience that I had, even though I was aware of what both of those were. That now, given what I read about and I understand about both, I have a lived experience that I feel like resonated with the outcome of what both of those wanted. And so for me, that was one that was just like, psh. And then your reaction to it was mind-blowing as well, too. That was a moment.
No, that was a special moment for me. And if I were to say what was a standout moment for me, it was that conversation. And I say that because it's been a long time since I've had the opportunity. And you even taught me in that moment, because I was like, we're debating. And you said, no, we're reasoning. And I sat back and I thought, we're reasoning. Because in a debate, somebody wins. In a reasoning session, it's about learning. Both people come away with an overstanding.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. That's absolutely
And so
right.
for me, it was like, man, okay. And one of the things that you taught me was the power of simplicity. So on this trip, this brother, like, he taught me the power of simplicity. I just got to acknowledge you, because going to Uganda, I mean, it's a 10-day trip. You're trekking. Yeah, I mean, all these different excursions. This brother had one carry-on backpack and was prepared for everything. And in my mind, I'm like, how do you have one carry-on? We got to trek. And he did it. And he was just like, look, man, one of the things I really decided was to minimize how I move so I can maximize my experience. Boom! Right? It's like, whoa. And this is one of the things I love about this experience, the leadership tour of Uganda, because while it's curated to help you all have these type of moments, I mean, I walk away with those moments from both of you as well, because it's the leaders on this trip that make the trip.
That's right.
And, man, so that was, I think, the second night.
That was the second night.
In Kasoro. To paint the picture, we are sitting around the fireplace. There's a fire pit in the middle. We're in the dining hall of the lodge.
Basically just had a private meal, because it was just us.
Just had a private meal.
Basically,
we were the only people who were at this particular lodge and resort. And we're sitting there, and we're able to go back and forth. Nobody's like, hey, it's late. It was just like, you know, have our conversation. And, man, I walked away richer.
Me too.
As a result of that. So I appreciate that, brother. And I would say one of the things that I think as men that we have to do more of is reasoning with one another.
That's right.
And what made that session so powerful was the listening.
That's right.
Like, when I spoke, I felt listened to, and I hope that when you spoke, you felt listened to. And we walked away 48 hours in stronger. And a relationship. I mean, all of a sudden, there was a relationship between the two of us that I don't know that I have with people I've known for years.
Same thing.
Because of that reasoning session. So that was a standout moment for me as well, brother. 100%.
I'm never going to forget that.
All right, so Dominique, I want to get back to this question that you began to answer. So over the break, Cantice reached out, asked the question, and she wanted to know what were the barriers, if any, you had to overcome to move forward with committing to this trip. You began to answer that. I want to come back to what you began to share.
Okay. So one of the biggest ones was the investment in me. So I thought about, like, yes, I invest in a house, I invest in a car, I invest in my business. And, like, okay, am I going to be able to pay this much, or do I want to pay this much, right? And I had to shift my mindset to say, I am worth it. I'm my greatest investment. And this is the first time that, and I flew first class, so I wanted to ensure that I had the best from the beginning to the very end. And I'm here to say that, yes, it was one of the best decisions of my life. Another barrier that I had to overcome was the fear of being a trailblazer and the first one. Really fighting with that, like, oh my goodness, this is out of my comfort zone. And again, this is unconventional, but really just centering myself, like, you know what? I'm going to push through this. I teach my young people to be trailblazers. Sometimes it's their first time going to college, their first job, first internship, first business with some of my volunteers and so forth. So I needed to step forth, being the first one in my family, as well as being an example to others.
Love that. From Attorney Fenton, he says, I got to know, I have to know, what did Dominique take away as a woman in the presence of man?
Oh
for this trip?
Oh my goodness. So I was actually surrounded by 3 married men. So Colin came in towards the end of the trip. And what I would say is really how to really flow in my femininity, having more of a safe place. We talked about relationships. So it was certain relationship questions that I did have that they really freed me of, that I kept for a long time. And I believe that is open. I needed to be on that trip to hear those certain things. I do have access to Linnell and Nairi that I can text and so forth, but it was just a place of being together for 10 days, able to get things definitely regarding relationships.
If there was a top lesson, and I'm putting you on the spot. It doesn't have to be the top. It could be one of the top 3.
Wow, I can't believe you put me on the spot for this one.
It's all right. I'm gonna give you a chance to think. I'm gonna give you a chance to think about it.
Yeah, because we gave free game a whole trip.
We did get free game
a whole trip.
We did get free game.
And you got, and when I say game, I don't mean game as sort of how we talk about it in sort of this social context, but really in terms of communication, of understanding gamesmanship in terms of how genders communicate and thinking through things from different starting points, right? And how it requires patience to work through that. And so there's a lot of what we gave you that it's even hard to us to even sit down and have that same conversation with the women that we are married to. Because that conversation gets much more personal. Because
it's connected.
Because that's absolutely right.
Yeah, you're not with any of us.
That's absolutely right.
One of the things I did notice about Dominique was she wasn't attached because of a current relationship to advice hold on, what about this?
That's absolutely right.
And one of the things I could appreciate, there was an opening where you would ask a question about relationship or about men. And we would say, this is what it is. And you'd be like, okay.
Yes.
And I can't tell you, sisters, listen to me. I can't tell you how many times I've answered a question about men only for the sister to come back and say, I don't know about that.
I'm wrong.
And I'm like, wait, you just asked a man about men.
That's right.
And I'm telling you.
That's right.
And then because of your...
That's right.
Your experiences, you're like, that's not true.
That's absolutely
right. I don't gotta meet your man to tell you this is how he's thinking.
That's absolutely right.
I'm telling you. And so I could appreciate that as well.
Yeah.
About you.
Well, I did have 3 things that you all taught me on the trip.
Oh man.
Yeah, okay. Let's hear it.
All right.
One, curiosity. Really making sure that not have any type of assumptions. It was certain questions that came up even for the dating, and I'll bring this up a prenup. Really, some women may not want a prenup or will do, prenup or whatever, but the perspective that the men provided was no, get curious, ask questions, and really getting to the bottom of it, and how men think. You all provided as well. And then also, what's truly important to you all? What we think is important to you all is not the same. So understanding, with that core. So those are some of the top 3.
That's real good.
That's real good.
That's real good.
Yeah. You get,
and listen to you.
I'm proud.
Yeah.
Look, my oldest daughter is 22. You mind having a chat with her?
Okay.
Let's see if those resonate.
Right, exactly, right? Yeah.
Let me see if she picked up on some of those. Yeah.
Can you all share a specific memory or story from the trip that you will always remember? You will always remember when you think about the leadership tour of Uganda. This is just it could be a moment or a story that you'll be like, man, this stays with me, this sticks with me, and whenever Uganda comes up, this story will pop into your mind.
So one of mine is the dinner with the leaders in Uganda, right? And so we're at this dinner, at this table.
Yeah, set the context.
So we're at this table. This is our first night meeting, and actually we're going through introductions.
Yeah.
Right? And everybody's going around introducing themselves. So, and as we've been introduced, everybody's starting to move around the table, sit in different places. So I move, and now you're telling folks a little bit more details about your life because, you're having more intimate conversations. So I'm talking with this lady who has her own fashion company. She has her own fashion manufacturing company and sort of sales. So she has the full 9, right? So I'm telling her, oh yeah, well I've got 6 kids, and she goes, oh, 6 kids. And so I'm like, well, look, so I'm on my second marriage. I had 3 in my first marriage. My current wife has 2, and then we share a baby together. And so the guy Colin is from, I guess, is it Northwest Uganda?
Yep.
So in Northwest Uganda, they're known for having a lot of kids, and the kids are across multiple women. Mm-hmm. So the inside joke that everybody immediately got was, oh, he's one of them. And so she uses this phrase, and then she goes, he's got 6 kids. And everybody just erupts laughing. And so then she leans into me, and she was like, yeah, all of those men over there, they got multiple women, but they ain't been married. So we're not gonna say that part to you. and so now I'm in on the joke, that this sort of nomenclature that they have around Ugandan men in the Northwest. So now for the rest of the night, every time they was like, "You just like one of them Northwest men," I was like, "Come on, guys!" I can't remember the phrase that she used, but that was one where everybody was just laughing on this side. The other side of the table was like, well, what the hell was happening? But literally, she was roasting me about having 6 kids. And I couldn't do nothing but laugh because it was really so funny. It was just sort of this, it was as if I got roasted at my own family.
Yeah.
That was the seamless. And I'm talking 20 minutes into meeting them. And it's like, oh, well, we're about to do, there's something about the experience of being from, to me, the African diaspora that allows us to seamlessly connect no matter where we are. And I don't care what continent that I've been on. Me being around a group of black folks, we immediately get into sort of this, and I'm going, yo, the roasting is the same. It doesn't matter. It don't matter. It's like going to visit somebody's family, and then you go over there and you say something, and now the whole family is roasting you about this one thing. Yeah. But when you walk away going, oh, yeah, they definitely like me. They roasted, you know what I mean?
Right,
Because if we don't rock with you, we ain't about to roast with you. We ain't about to do that because we going to go for the jugular real fast, right? And so now we just don't do that. So there's a kindred spirit in terms of how we connect with each other that came out in that. And so while I shared that story, but it was about what happened at that table that you didn't get this sense of. Again, it doesn't happen around the corporate table like that, right? You're so ready to go. Man, we was out till like 5 o'clock in the morning with these folks at this point because nobody wanted to go home. And it was like, well, we got to fly out, y'all, the next morning. And
he did say 5 a.m.
Yes.
We were out to 5 a.m. And it was a blast.
It was a blast.
We had a really good time.
Really good time.
Our last night in Kampala. That was awesome.
Yeah, they was gracious hosts.
What about you, Dominique? What would you say is a story, a memory, like a specific memory or story that you will always keep with you as a result of this journey?
I wish I could say 3, but can I say 2? Okay. So one is the whole experience when I got to the hotel. Like, I got my hair done there.
Those are the braids, right?
Yeah, these are the braids.
Yes. They're looking fresh. Rock it out.
I know, right.
Rock it out.
And they did it in 3.5 hours, ladies. Can you believe that? And it's all the way past to my butt. So that's major. 2, being able, I got 8 outfits made. So even what I'm wearing right now is part of what was made and so forth. So really immersing in the experience was just amazing. The second one is being on the boat ride and seeing the waterfall. Being on a now.
Show that waterfall all day.
I thought you was going to talk about the hippo that was about to get us. I forgot all about that hippo that was snorted and dipped under. But go ahead. Yeah. I forgot all about that. Jeez.
If you want to talk about that, you can. But just really seeing the wildlife and being just in the water and so forth. And then the third one, the journey when we were going trekking. Like, that was our first big thing. So usually Linnell put that at the end.
It's typically at the end,
But it was worth. And I think it was strategic and prophetic of why it was at the beginning. That was the big bang.
Yeah.
And then we was on the ride up and up from there.
I love that.
So.
And I'm glad you mentioned that third one because the first thing that came to my mind was my guy Nicholas.
That's an inside joke.
That's an inside joke.
We'll leave it there.
Inside joke.
Yeah.
Inside
I love
joke.
it. I love
The feet got light all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Holding Nicholas.
got light.
Man, boy, I tell you,
I'm telling you.
the power of polarity.
Bro,
My
what?
goodness.
What? Light foot hiking.
So, how would you say? I mean, 2 weeks out, what would you say? How did this travel experience contribute to your personal growth and well-being?
I haven't taken a trip like that in a year. So really being able to rest, reset, and flow, like it caused me to be even more explosive.
Yeah.
And be able to face certain gorillas or giants. So I had to have tough conversations when I came back and really, or just get great things in order, like within my family and making sure we having certain meetings and just that connection and so forth. It just gave me more of a umph. And yeah, I'm excited about that.
So, Nairi, for you, how would you say this experience contributed to your personal growth and well-being outside of what you've already shared? Like anything else come to mind?
Yeah. No. So for me, I have this sort of foundational belief that purpose for all of us is to simply enjoy the being of you for yourself. And so this trip was confirmatory to me again that is still so true.
Yeah.
Because the soul, again, I was the purpose for the trip for me. So everything I got away was about me. So the ways that I've grown, I haven't even gotten a chance to even put them to use yet.
Got you.
Right. And so there's still sort of this piece of, I know there's a bunch that came
Evolving.
out of this.
Yeah.
And so the confirmatory piece is sort of this is that you're always evolving. So some of the stuff you get, you don't know when you're going to need them. For instance, Jainism, reasoning. Me having the conversation with you that was going to connect those two different disciplines, right?
Yep.
To sort of that, and it just sort of is that reminder, continue to absorb, continue to soak in, continue to absorb, continue to soak in.
That's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good. Like what you sharing that, I had read up on Alderian psychology some time ago. It didn't even occur to me how it applies to the work I currently do until we had that conversation.
Yeah.
And it just came out of like, hey, man, you need to check out Alderian psychology.
Yep.
And here's why. And I'm kind of like, I need to recheck it out.
Yeah.
Right? And so I love that where sometimes, you have these growth experiences and these learnings that they're in your utility belt, like your Batman belt.
That's right.
And at some point, like even this experience itself, you may find yourself like, wait, I have this tool now.
That's absolutely right.
Because of this experience.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I don't know how it would have went without this experience, but I know how it's going to go because I have this tool.
That's
I
right.
love that.
That's right. And I think that I love that Dominique kept talking about that rest. One of the things that I think being in nature opened up is this creative space. Because I think when you're in nature, and my office is almost near nature. My wife, I told her I need about 5 more plants in there. She's like, you don't. But I think for me, I've certainly gotten this connection to when I'm in nature, I see and feel the experience of what it is to not worry. Every animal in nature knows that, okay, this is the time when I sleep. This is the time when I'm out to hunt. While I'm out to hunt or while I'm trying to sleep, I need to think about my security in the sense of, did I build in a place that was going to give me maximum security? Right? And it can only give you so much, right? If a snake crawls in your nest, it just is what it is, right? But they built the nest knowing that this is what the nest is supposed to do.
Yep.
They didn't build the nest going, well, which snake is going to come, right? We worry about some stuff that it gets in the way of your creativity because your mind is now processing junk. And I think that was something for me that came out. I didn't use my cell phone as much while I was there, right? So I was trying to, and so I kept finding myself going, in listening, I was able to connect and build sort of all these. And I think that's what unlocked our leadership lessons is that
100%.
we were not sort of sidetracked or overwhelmed with the inputs, that we were just able to take the inputs of the three of us being together or when there was a fourth person. And I think for me, that's something that resonates in a way that I've been all building that even in the way I pack, right? And so this was confirmation that, you need to keep going down this, because something happens inside of you that when we get back, talked about this earlier, that energy. Well, I know nature can activate my energy without anything.
Yeah.
I think to the person who was talking about the lagging, you need to find out what activates your energy.
That's good.
Even if it's not a person, right?
Yeah.
It may come from something else, a hobby that you have, because I think there's a thrill sort of seeking piece that you kind of have to yours, right? You have to continue to go wherever that spirit is. And so, interestingly enough, one of my biggest challenges in my marriage is that I'm a wandering spirit, and so we'll be in the airport, and I'll just walk off because I'm looking at something, and my wife is like, "You act like I ain't even here," but I'm not even thinking about that, because in my natural curiosity, I flow where my curiosities go. That's why I read every day, because I have to flow with that curiosity. I know where she is. I'm not curious about where she is, right? And so, I've had to now sort of open that curiosity by, I need to be curious about where she is so she can know where I'm headed to. So even in that space, I had to sort of learn what that looks like. So even in my own space of having that curiosity, there's somebody who still cares and who just wants to know, are you good?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Love that. So would you recommend this travel experience to someone who may be thinking, okay, 2026, I'm listening to this sister, I'm listening to this brother, and, is this for me? What would you say to them?
I would say absolutely. It was so much more than just leadership. We talked about leading in our life, leading in our health, leading in our relationship, leading within our spirit and so forth. It was something that will push you to the next level. I've already inspired people to sign up, 3 people and so forth, just because of my experience and all. So you think you're going to get one thing? You're going to get that one thing, but you're going to get so much more. But yeah, I would definitely recommend it 100%.
Got you. Now, Yuri, what about you?
I would recommend it with the condition that you need to be ready. And you need to know yourself that you're ready. And by ready is that you need to know that where you are doesn't fit with what you are capable of doing. And if you are at that sort of space, this trip is going to really give you some clarity. And so whoever you are, if you are seeking some clarity in your life and you're seeking to have an experience that induces that for you, this is a no-brainer for you, from an investment in you loving yourself, to something I said earlier, for the sole purpose of you. If you're at that spot in your journey, this trip is an absolutely no-brainer for you. But there are some folks who may want to do it for the Uganda. I want to go to Uganda, again, as the social experience. This isn't that. This is about real growth and transformation. You might need to catch Tom Joyner or some cruise like that if you want that level of experience. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that if that's where you want to go. But just to be clear about what this is and a value proposition, this is about you investing in you, and I love how you use those terms. If you're not ready to invest in yourself because you're not ready to go to that next level, spend your energy on that, which is figuring out where you are. Not this.
Yeah, that's really good. Thank you for that. Well said. Number 1, rhinos. What did you all take from that part of the Uganda experience?
You know what? If you go into it looking for one thing, know you're going to find something else.
Yeah.
We went in it looking for rhinos, and we saw 3 zebras who were just transported within 6 months.
Giraffes.
No, the ones that had just got transported.
They just got there.
So they're the only 3. So think about the timing of the trip, the fact that we were on the rhino trek at that time, and for the zebras to just come there, and the guys are like, look, they just got here 6 months ago. Y'all are super lucky. Like that, right? Again, we went into it with rhinos. We were exposed to something we didn't. I think that summarizes going to Africa as well too.
Yeah, I do. I love that.
I think it's summarized.
Yeah, you go for one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get so much
more.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. What about you, for the rhinos?
It was a great experience. What I will say is I was a little picky with the type of shoes. So being able to trust the expert. I didn't want to wear the rain shoes. I don't know if y'all remember
boots.
that.
Yeah,
the rubber boots.
Yeah.
I wanted to wear a different type of shoes because it was uncomfortable. Yeah. But I had to shift my mindset and be able to connect and trust the expert. And I thank God I did.
Yeah, because it was kind of swampy.
It was
swampy. Yeah,
we literally
needed
stood
those.
in the same spots that they stood in. When they moved, we moved to the other spot right behind them. So literally standing where, that was insane.
It was.
Yes.
It's insane.
Yeah, it's that rhino trek for me is always surreal. Because it's such a powerful and beautiful animal, and to be in such close proximity with them, again, following the rules of nature, completely safe.
That's absolutely right.
Quiet,
absolutely
not standing
right.
directly in front of them,
That's
standing off to the side, being quiet and respectful.
Yeah.
Completely safe.
That's right.
Following the rules of nature.
That's right.
And so for me, it's just always a surreal experience.
And then one other thing, when you said, and this was one of our leadership lessons, was nature will give us a warning, whether good or bad.
That's right.
That's right.
That was one of the,
That's right.
And
That's
one
right.
of the things we learned about the rhinos is they won't just attack.
Yeah.
They warn you first. So if they put their head down, start shaking it, start, kind of rubbing the feet, they're letting you know, hey, step to the side.
The hippo, when we was in the boat,
Yeah,
did the
yeah,
same thing.
yeah.
Make the noise, dip
Make the
under.
noise, dip.
Yes, I think it's time for us to dip out too, right?
Nature
That's
always
absolutely right.
provides
That's
a warning.
absolutely right.
Hey,
Yes.
I'm uncomfortable with what you're doing.
That's right.
I'll leave you where you are
Yes.
if you leave me where I am.
Yeah.
And that's, one of the beautiful things.
Yeah, it
Again,
is.
purpose, man.
Yeah,
Purpose.
it is.
When you're clear on your purpose, it's so clear and predictable. Butterflies. Real quick. We had that butterfly experience on the chimpanzee trek.
My
I don't know if one of you all want to articulate, multiple butterfly experiences.
Yeah. You gonna do it?
No, that's fine.
No. So we were talking about. So I guess we went to park.
Yeah.
There's all these butterflies, and he
Yeah.
was asking about where butterflies was. First time I ever heard the definition of you're only going to find butterflies where the environment is clean.
Mm-hmm.
Butterflies don't deal with dirty stuff, right? And so we are walking, and a butterfly lands on your phone.
That's right. On my knee. First.
No,
On your knee first.
On my knee first.
On your
yeah.
knee first. And typically with a butterfly, as soon as you move, they just kind of move and fly away.
Yeah.
He's able to get up. The butterfly stays. We get back to trekking. The butterfly stays. I think I actually grabbed my phone out at this point because the butterfly's on top of his phone because I'm like, somebody else has got to see this. And while we're walking, the butterfly literally stays through this, maybe
15
5,
minutes
10,
of
15
the- yeah,
minutes.
yeah,
like
15
and
minutes of the
literally,
trek.
and again, gosh, we're hiking, trekking gorilla. So we're moving, ducking. The chimpanzees.
Chimps.
So we're moving, we're doing all of this, and the butterfly is still literally there. Just.
And the meaning of the butterfly, Colin told us, was when they land on you, it's blessing.
Yeah.
And I think prosperity.
Yeah.
And a butterfly landed on all four of us at
That's
one
right.
point.
Yeah, all four of us.
By the end of the chimpanzee trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, by the end of
By the end of
chimpanzee
the
trek,
trek.
butterflies had landed on. It was just one of those spiritual experiences that's hard to replicate in words.
Yeah.
Especially being, them flying around. It's just, man, that was something. How would you summarize this experience in a sentence? How would you summarize this experience in a sentence? I love the silence and the thoughtfulness around this.
Ease,
Ease, I love that.
rest and ease, reset, and the ability to flow.
Isn't that interesting? I don't think people would make those words synonymous with a gorilla trek.
Yeah.
And I love that that's what came, because when you say gorilla trek to many people, the first thing that comes up for them is fear.
That's right.
And what I'm getting from you, Dominique, is in the end, after going through the entire experience, ease, relaxation, opportunity to reflect.
Yes.
And what was the fourth word?
Flow.
Flow. Nairi?
I think if I There's probably two sentences, and I think one is a sentence for me, is that, and I'm going to sort of parlay off what Dominique said. This is one of the single greatest investments in Nairi that I've ever done.
Oh wow!
Right, I think I think it sort of stands there. I think the second thing I think is the definition of leadership actually resides in the blend of nature and nurture. And I think that's what we saw with the gorillas. We saw the alpha male like really sort of lean into, in my nature, I'm nurturing my family because I'm actually signaling to us there's another place where I want us to go and flourish. So his family, and we didn't get into this, they still determined when they followed, but it was still clear that they knew who was going to take them. So there's a part of leadership that, to me, that balance of nature versus nurture and how you blend them. You may be a natural born leader, but you still need to understand the nature of people.
Love that.
Right? So there's
Love that. Well said. Well said. Thank you for watching Inspirational Perspective. If you love this show and you want to see more content like this, you can go right here. And if you like this subject and you want to see much more content that we have available for you, just click the button here. As always, thanks for watching. Be sure to watch the show live, 7 a.m. every Sunday morning on WVON Radio, or you can catch it right here on YouTube or Facebook.com/Coach Liddell Harris. Be sure to hit that like button. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe so we can get more content just like this to you.